last lap. You can do it. It's 4.7 seconds. 5.6 seconds.
It's a one of a kind, only in the DTM.
Yes, man, you did it.
Thank you, guys.
Go, 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 go.
Yeah!
Früher haben wir mal die Stunde der Wahrheit genannt. Und diese Stunde kann ich zusammenschrumpfen in 20 Minuten. Dennoch, nach den 20 Minuten, die wir das so noch von üblich haben werden. Hallo und herzlich willkommen auf den Tribünen hier rund um den Lausenturm und neuerdings natürlich auch im YouTube Livestream, wo man uns verfolgen kann. Herzlich willkommen zum ersten Qualifying des Wochenendes hier in der Lausenturm. Wir hätten insgesamt dieses Saison. Es ist Samstag, es ist ein Qualifying, ein Rennen, wer es nicht gehört hat, das ist neu. 2 Qualifying, 2 Rennen pro Wochenende. Jetzt also haben wir den Salat und der schmeckt uns ausgesprochen. Ja, damit auch ein herzlich willkommen von meiner Seite. 20 Minuten sind gleich angestartet und zwar perfekt.
Bereit, ja?
Wir melden uns.
Alles klar. Hallo, Cindy, kleinen Moment. Das ist das schönste Glück geworden. Das fangen wir mal gleich, ja?
put him? The answer is that it puts him 8th, just behind Wittmann.
And whilst that's going on, Matthias Ekström, 1:17.802. Eki, of course, back to his best at Hockenheim, as we saw in round 1. Recently been out in his rallycross car as well. Here comes Jamie Green, also victorious at Hockenheim, of course. And what's Jamie Green going to do? He goes P1 with a 1:17.559, so 2/10 out of the time from Matthias Ekström, and they are beginning to tumble a little bit.
Interestingly, both Green and Ekström not as quick in the 3rd sector as they had been on their very first effort. So perhaps a little bit more time to come. What does that tell us? Maybe that it's getting very blustery and that's affecting the aero through that final slower section of the circuit. Wehrlein up to the 6th place provisionally on the grid, 14 minutes on the clock still.
Yeah, he's just improved 3 places, hasn't he? Gone from P9 to P6. Pascal Wehrlein then, who of course combines his DTM outings with that of reserve driver in Formula 1 as well.
Yes, he might have been overshadowed by Wittmann winning the title here, but people sat up and took notice, and of course he got that 3rd driver role in F1, as you say. Right, Matthias Ekström has done a personal best in the 1st sector. He's down in the 2nd sector, and he's about to make his way then up now out of effectively turn 4 on the oval, up towards the timing line. Is he going to go to the top? Let's see. He crosses the line, and the answer is no. He's quicker, 17.660, and that means that he is now 1,000th shy of Jamie Green. 1,000th of a second.
So very, very close, isn't it? With just 13.5 minutes left on the clock for this qualifying session. We continue to watch Matthias Ekström then, and cross now to Eduardo Mortara in his office then. All the DTM drivers driving with permanent numbers for the first time this season. Let's see it from Eduardo Mortara's front of his car.
And this is his first lap as well, because we've not yet got a time out of Edo Mortara, so everything is going to be green. Bear in mind as well that Miguel Molina, who is 3rd, has just done an absolute best in Sector 1.
Oh, let's see. So at the moment, the way it looks, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, is, well, green at the top, then it's Ekström, then it's Molina, then it's Martin, Rob Wickens, Paul di Resta, Marco Wittmann, Pascal Wehrlein, Bruno Spengler and Tom Blomqvist. The top 10 at the moment. Here comes Eduardo Mortara then. And where is this going to put him? P3.
Not a bad effort ahead of Molina. Now, Marco Wittmann has done the absolute best in Sector 1 as Molina goes down to turn 1. Tom Blomqvist behind him on track. Blomqvist is 11th. Here comes Molina then, up towards the timing line, and he goes fastest of all, a 1:17.438, 8,000 slower than Jamie Green did in free practice 2. There is Wittmann. For the moment, we are aware that Wittmann is going to be reported to the stewards of the meeting for blocking. So the story ain't over yet. He's 8th provisionally on the grid. He's done an absolute best. He's done a personal best. This could get into the top, but the stewards will have a part to play in the outcome of the grid for this afternoon's race. Up to the timing line, here comes the champion.
Marco Wittmann then crosses the line and goes from P8 to P3. But as my learned friend alongside me has said, we wait to see what the stewards will say about the alleged blocking incident and how that will affect the actual position he takes on the grid. Eduardo Mortara now, 2 PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Currently P5 for Eduardo Mortara. Now, free practice 2 was a bit of an Audi looking very strong, weren't they? And at the moment, that's telling the same story in this qualifying session. No sign of the rain yet as Eduardo Mortara heads up to the timing line now. And doesn't improve. 1:17.717, in fact, 2/10 down on what he's done. So, Molina at the top with a 1:17.438. Then it's Jamie Green. Then it's Marco Wittmann, Matthias Ekström, Eduardo Mortara and Maxime Martin.
Can I throw a thought at you?
Yes, please.
Because we've only had 23 drivers set a time. Adrian Tambay has been out and straight back in again. It doesn't matter what he does in this session, he's going to be at the back of the grid.
Yes.
He's done an installation lap, which therefore scrubs in a set of tyres, but he's saved himself by not, if he doesn't go out again, and there is no point in going out,
what can he
will
achieve?
save himself one of those 4 sets of boots for the rest of the qualifying and race element, because you get 4 sets effectively for the 2 qualifyings and the 2 races, and if he doesn't go back out or only does perhaps another installation lap to scrub them in, effectively he's saved himself a set of tyres.
I could see the steam coming out as you were thinking that strategy through, and you're absolutely right. That's exactly what he's doing.
Farfus has pitted, and he is 15th fastest, and we've yet to see the best out of him. So at the moment, it's Audi, BMW, in other words, Molina, Green, Wittmann, Ekström, Mortara, Martin, and the best Mercedes, 7th, Robert Wickens. I wouldn't necessarily have put €10 on Wickens being the top Mercedes driver.
Yes, that's probably where you and I would have had one of our many arguments as Eduardo Mortara goes through. Really scrappy first sector from Eduardo Mortara, and here we can see in replay as he runs out onto the gravel.
I mean, under normal circumstances, that might be a track limits issue, but because he went so wide and hooked the wheel into the gravel, anything he would have gained there by keeping up the momentum he wasted by hooking the wheel into the gravel and just losing a bit of momentum.
Okay, yes, we take a look then at the car of Tom Blomqvist being put into the garage. Tom Blom is currently P8, and what have we got? Just under 10 minutes left to run. There is the man that is under investigation for this potential blocking issue, Marco Wittmann, who is currently P3, certainly the best of the BMWs to show, the champion there, Marco Wittmann, with the Ice Watch livery on the front of the car. And you're quite right, the story ain't over with what he delivers on the track during this qualifying session. We'll wait to see what the stewards will say after the qualifying session with regards to that potential blocking issue. Matthias Ekstrom there,
who is currently 4th fastest. Now, I just wonder whether we're now going to have this situation where everyone has done one run. Are they going to venture back out or save themselves a set of tyres? If they feel that they've done about as much as they can do, then let's see how busy the track is. Well, Pascal Wehrlein is going to go and have another go. 8.5 minutes on the clock. It is still possible that the grid can be shuffled.
He will be the only car out on the track.
You're right, absolutely. He's got the road to himself. Trouble is that if he goes out now, and I'm assuming this is on a new set of tyres, what he can't do is respond if everybody else goes out a little bit out of sequence, because his tyres will have gone past their best as others are able to do the good laps right at the very end. So it's a gamble,
but it might pay. Okay, so Pascal Wehrlein then is, as we speak, the only car out on the 3.478 kilometre circuit here at the Lausitz-Ring. He is, as we speak, just going off of turn 5 into the inner section of the track. And as we look at some of the replays of what has gone on thus far in qualifying, and looking out of our window, which is based very, very high in the main grandstand here at the Lausitz-Ring. It's a fantastic circuit facility for spectating. Can't see any signs of rain yet. As we look at Jamie Green in the Hoffman Group Audi RS5 DTM. Green at the moment, P2 in the chart. And we have another Mercedes that's just joined us out on track. In fact, Lucas Auer is out there, as well as Christian Vitoris.
One driver who I think will need to go back out, Dave, is Gary Paffett. Now, he's 23rd. You could argue that it doesn't really matter to Gary because his drive up from the back of the grid in Hockenheim Race 2 was an absolute stunner. But I think Gary would be rather pleased to be up near the pointy end and also away from Martin Tomczyk. If you remember Hockenheim Race 1, Tomczyk made that mistake and harpooned Paffett up at the hairpin after the parabolica. In the press conference yesterday, there was a question posed by one of the German media. Gary, Martin, have you made up after the accident?
Yes.
And Gary started to once again put his point of view ahead. Martin Tomczyk interrupted him and said,
That's
look,
rude.
Can we just stop this kind of thing? Because he said, you said everything you had to say straight after the accident at Hockenheim. We've moved on. And he then used the phrase, people in glass houses should not throw stones, and sometimes you are not the best player. So there is no love lost between Paffett and Tomczyk. Whether this is going to run and run over the year, we'll wait and see. But it absolutely stopped everybody in their tracks in the press conference yesterday. You could have heard a pin drop.
Okay, here is Pascal Wehrlein then. Of course, the first two sectors green, 25.923, 15.509 as he gets out onto the wall as they rejoin then the original oval part of the circuit. He heads towards the timing line now. The gun time then is a 1:17.438, and Pascal Wehrlein now goes P3, and David.
Paffett is on track. So, responding to what we were suggesting, he is going to have another stab at a decent lap time.
He was listening to you.
But somebody has to. So, Molina it is, who, as you say, is the quickest. And it is Molina Green, Wehrlein up to 3rd, Wittmann 4th. So, we have now got a Mercedes in the top 3. The best BMW provisionally 4th. Provisionally because there is still this Damocletian investigation, isn't there?
Yes, very much so. So, Molina Green, Wehrlein, Wittmann then, the 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is Mike Rockenfeller, and behind Mike Rockenfeller you can see Gary Paffett there weaving just a little bit to try and put some heat into those tyres. Paffett down there, lowly P23, has got 5 minutes or so to improve on that. Mike Rockenfeller then was P12.
Yeah, and this should be an improvement.
It should, but
there are personal bests. Rockenfeller had a pole for race 2 at Hockenheim, didn't he? And it's an okay lap. Let's see where it's going to put him up to as he heads up towards the timing line. He's got about 3 more laps in the session if the tyres will permit. Well, he does improve, but only to 11th.
It's the last sector where he lost that, isn't it?
And that's where other people have been losing out. Here comes Wittmann. He was down in the first sector, though, on this lap.
So Marco Wittmann then, the champion who sealed it here last season, was P4 and is 4/10 slower than his P4 time. This is Timo Scheider. I can recall Timo Scheider on his bicycle and was jolly quick around here. He's certainly jolly quick in his Audi as well. So Timo Scheider heads up to the timing line now. P16 turns into P11.
He lost out in the middle sector, even though it was a personal best. He was still about 3/10 down there in 1/3 of the lap alone. So it's not quite as it should be for Scheider just yet. Who else is looking pretty racy at the moment as the clock's got less than 4 minutes still to run? Maxime Martin goes through, goes 7th, improves his lap time, 1:17.729. Do like the big numbers on the windscreens I have this year. Edo Mortara here has done the absolute best in Sector 1. Now this is going to be a lap to savour because look at the road ahead of him. It is clear, clear, clear. And Mortara is on the money. He's working his way through the middle sector. There was a car off the road, and that's Wittmann, and that's a yellow flag. And that was ahead of Mortara, who just got to the end of Sector 2 and had done another purple. And there, the lap is possibly going to be compromised.
Also under investigation now for potential blocking is Augusto Farfus. So back to Edo Mortara.
It's not the fact that Wittmann was off the road that's the issue, it's the yellow flag.
Yes. So here is Eduardo Mortara then.
He's up to the line, 2 purples, sectors 1 and 2. 3rd fastest, and it was the last sector that began at that corner where he had to lift because of the yellow, because of Wittmann. That should have been pole, shouldn't it?
It should have been. It should have been.
But he did the right thing by having to lift in that sector. And this is what went on. A wobble, first of all, from Maxime Martin. And that doesn't happen very often.
No.
And then Wittmann just got it all wrong. I still wonder whether, because that's all in Sector 3, that's the first corner going into that 3rd sector, where people have been losing time. And I still wonder whether the blustery conditions are having an effect in that part of the lap.
When you and I, during free practice 2 this afternoon, were down there trackside, as we do, and the wind was really, really, it was fierce in Bluss.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you did make the point how much of a difference that would make on aero. Okay, here's Robert Wickens right now. He's done a PB in Sector 1. And we get the sector times up there, and who's down. Although he's done a PB in Sector 2, he's still down on the Molina time.
Yeah, he's 2/10 down in Sector 2. He's 1/10 down in Sector 1. So this is probably going to move him only up 1 place at best. He's 8th at the moment, 7th-ish.
And whilst we've been talking, of course, the clock continues to tick down, and we've got just 1.5 minutes of qualifying to go.
He'll get 1 more lap out of this. Now let's see if he's really good in the last sector. There's an improvement possibly on the cards. Goes over the timing lean, goes 7th.
Oh. Mystic David alongside me then. Robert Wickens then P7. And Farfus again is another one of those that will be investigated by the stewards for blocking.
What we don't know is whether it's blocking in the pit lane or blocking on track, but it's interesting that it's BMW drivers, plural, that have done this.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Wittmann from RMG and Farfus from RBM, different teams.
Molina.
Yes.
Scrappy Sector 1. Brilliant Sector 2. Can he rescue enough from Sector 2 and Sector 3 to really concrete his P1 position? No.
He was down in Sector 3 as well, wasn't he? But you're right, the first sector was about 4/10 slower, so it was very, very scrappy, that. So we've got just half a minute remaining before the end of the session. Adrian Tombe didn't go back out again, saving that set of tyres, the Hankook rubber, for this afternoon's race. Fairline has pitted. Ekstrom's just gone 4th. Ride with him down to turn 1. He's just gone over the line. There is Eki, and he's into the top 4 now.
Now, when we were watching and we stood down there by turn 1, and you don't perhaps get the, whoa, and that goes horribly wrong. Just carried too much speed through there. I was going to say, you don't get the impression necessarily on TV from just what an angle that turn one is, David. You almost have to come back on yourself, don't you? It's a really severe turn one, and often is the bottleneck in races. Now, this is where Eki got it, so much get it wrong, as he was just on the grass there that unsettled the back end of the car. And from there on in, carrying perhaps a bit too much speed into that turn, the back end steps out and Eki turns around. Jamie Green takes evasive action to avoid him.
And write it in your diaries. Ekstrom spins. Doesn't happen very often.
No, far from it.
I seem to remember it did happen here in the race last year. He went off, didn't he? And he was in early retirement, but doesn't happen terribly often. So Ekstrom in strife, having just improved. Now, Jamie Green down in Sector 1 by a 10th. Personal best in Sector 2. This might be an improvement, but
Don't think it's going to be.
He has lifted, because the session, I think, is at an end. Yes, the flag is out, and he goes over the line. It's a 17.598, so not quite an improvement. I was about to tell you that the magic second will cover 22 of the 24 cars. That's how competitive it is.
Very, very competitive, and the predicted shower didn't happen.
No.
And I wonder how that affected how people were thinking in terms of the teams and what they were going to do with the drivers, and they were going to bank the early laps perhaps. Who knows? What we do know is that it's Molina, Green, Mortara, Ekstrom before we see Pascal Wehrlein P5.
So Audi 1, 2, 3, 4, Mercedes 5 and BMW 6.
But that P6 for BMW, of course, may change.
As indeed may P19 for Farfus, because that's where he is, and he's under investigation as well. Antonio Felix da Costa up to 12th, right at the very end. A good effort, came out of nowhere. So we'll go through the order in a moment, but there is the man of the moment. Miguel Molina takes pole position. And makes his way to the cameras, makes his way to Parc Fermé.
You'll recall in the past when Miguel Molina has had a fantastic qualifying, David. He's been the subject of some technical irregularities and has often been put back. Hasn't always had the rub of the draw, has he, in terms of his race grid position actually reflecting what he achieved in qualifying. There's Marco Wittmann.
It was Ottersteben last year, wasn't it? The pole became the back of the grid. That's a 4th career pole for Miguel Molina. Jamie Green, 2nd fastest. And 1 or 2 drivers should be a bit nervous, I think, about their trip up to the race officials. Robert Wickens out of the car there. Frustration for Mike Rockenfeller because it never really hooked up, and 14th after a pole at Hockenheim. Not great.
No.
But Miguel Molina is a happy man, that is for sure. And it's good to have Jamie Green up there once again, isn't it? He struggled a bit in race 2 at Hockenheim, didn't qualify so well and got whacked about a bit in the pack, but he's had a win and he's had a pole, and there he is, 2nd on the grid for this first race of the weekend here.
Now, this twilight race, call it what you will. Obviously, the weather is still going to be about and may play a part as we get now confirmation of the qualifying. Bear in mind, this is a provisional result. Molina, Green, Mortara, Ekstrom. Then it's Wehrlein, Wittmann, Wickens, Martin, Blomqvist, Di Resta, Scheider, and Antonio Felix da Costa on the first page. Weather is going to have an effect. Track temperature is going to drop as well, David. It's going to be a different setup, isn't it? As we see.
Potentially so. Gary Paffett's still my concern at 23rd. I wonder whether that was because they've still got some carryover of the issue of yesterday, but he didn't really affect him too much in free practice too. So Paffett is one that we need to keep an eye to come the race. Again, anticipate if the car is willing, one of his mega drives up through the field. But 3rd on the grid is the Castrol Edge Audi, the colour scheme defecting from BMW to Audi this year. Eduardo Mortara, the driver, his time a 1:17.564. In the end, just 5 thousandths slower than Jamie Green, illustrating A, how competitive it is up at the front of the grid, and B, how evenly matched the Audis are. Jamie Green's time a 1:17.559. So Jamie, having been 17th on the grid for the last race at Hockenheim after pole for the first, back at the pointy end. But Miguel Molina takes the 4th career pole position, and he does so by 21 thousandths of a second.
And you can see there just how committed Molina was. Just very nearly dips a tyre down into the gravel, but not quite. Absolutely got it balanced perfectly on that knife edge. So, well, that's qualifying for race 1. And as we say, the ended up with 2 drivers being looked at for potential blocking. And as David has said, we're not sure whether that blocking was perhaps in the pit lane rather than on the track. We will find out in due course, and of course we'll bring you the news of that and any penalties that should or may not follow in the case of the race this afternoon, as Hans-Jürgen Abt then down off the pit perch. Pretty pleased with the efforts this afternoon, it has to be said, and the threat of rain not arriving, and as we say that, the sun seems to break through and shine yet more as Adrian Tambay there congratulating Molina, and there's Robert Wickens as all the drivers off to the Wade, and laughter and smiles all round, and Tambay, as you said, the sacrificial lamb, but you know, good what they have done in terms of being very clever in banking a set of tyres.
Yeah, and I think Tambay might well be one to watch in the race, because I think if they are very fresh, those tyres, as they should be, then he'll be able to make some progress. We shall see. We shall see.
So some shots there of a successful driver in our qualifying. Here comes the grid in full for you as we know it at the moment. Front row, Molina and Jamie Green with an Audi lockout. Here's row 2.
And that is where you find Eduardo Mortara and, despite his spin, Matthias Ekstrom.
So, to the next row, we see a Mercedes and a BMW. It's Pascal Wehrlein and the champion, Marco Wittmann.
Although behind Wittmann, things could shuffle because of him being reported to the stewards. That might help Robert Wickens and Maxime Martin, currently 7th and 8th.
Of course, that could elevate them. Tom Blomqvist, P9, and alongside him is Paul de Resta for P10.
Outside the top 10, Timo Scheider is 11th, and the Portuguese driver Antonio Felix da Costa rounds out the top dozen.
Interesting hand gestures from Felix da Costa as we see Danny Juncadella P13, Mike Rockenfeller perhaps be disappointed with P14, I would say.
As will Bruno Spengler, only 15th, and Nico Muller a bit further down than you might have anticipated him. He's 16th.
Then we see Martin Tomczyk, P17, Timo Glock, ex-Formula 1 star, of course, P18.
Augusto Farfus is another one to go to see the stewards. He's 19th provisionally, ahead of an anonymous Christian Vitoris.
Lucas Auer is P21 with Maximilian Goetz, P22.
And then a troubled Gary Paffett, 23rd, and Adrian Tambay, who did not do a qualifying lap, would have been at the back anyway for his resealed engine. He'll stop 24th.
Well, there we have it. At the moment, that is the way that the grid looks as we see the drivers down there, and there's Molina talking to Hans-Jürgen Abt as we speak and being congratulated by race engineer there. He is 1:17.438, sealing him P1 position for the race to come a little bit later today in the new era of DTM here at 2015, where we have 2 races per weekend, and enjoyable they are.
Race 1 at Hockenheim was a very physical, very fierce race indeed. Quite a bit of damage came out of that, and we anticipate more drama in race 1 here. Let's have a look back at some of the best bits then of qualifying here at the Lausitz-Ring, topped by Miguel Molina.
So there we have it, the race to come a little bit later on. Join us for that. One thing's for sure, going to be very exciting. Bye-bye for now.
Ja, heute, ich war mir diese Halsbonbons, die du da großzügig in der Wochenendzahl bislang enthalten hast. Du weißt, wir haben auch die Stimme als Hauptwerkzeug. Schön. Also wir sagen noch einmal ein bisschen drüber reden, mein Freund. Aber ansonsten war das ein knackiges und wie wir es bereits angekündigt hatten, ein richtig tolles Qualifying mit 4 Audi auf den ersten 4 Plätzen. Dann allerdings kommt Mercedes und BMW mit Wehrlein Wittmann in Schlagdistanz in Lauerstellung. Das alles dann nachher 18:05 Uhr geht das Rennen los, fangen natürlich ein bisschen früher an. Gibt natürlich alles, was es noch an einem Sonntag gibt, Startpresentation und so weiter und so fort. Eine schöne Startaufstellung, die ein oder anderen Interviews und darauf bereiten wir uns jetzt mal in der Kürze der Zeit vor. Und wer sich auch vorbereitet, neben mir vor allem durch lautes Rascheln seiner ganzen Papierunterlagen, kann man hören, ich glaube ja. So der Rechte, der Mann hat zwar einen Computer, aber hat trotzdem so viel Papier dabei. So viel Hand brauche ich in der ganzen Saison. Ja, ich bin ein Schwabe und deswegen wird auch gespart. Das war's also vom Qualifying Rennen Nummer 1 von der DTM. Und jetzt gleich gibt es auch Carrera Cup. Das war's auch auf dem YouTube-Livestream, was die DTM anbelangt. Ich hoffe, ihr hattet alle viel Spaß. Und wir hören und sehen vor allem nachher uns von einer Menge Action wieder. Also, dann tschüss und Dankeschön.